Hello, Spookaroos. Don't worry, this is a new episode. It's not a remix episode, and I'm not even here to warn you about some technical screw-up or something like that. I'm here today because I've realized something as I've started recording these episodes, and that is that I'm really not very good at producing while in the field. Sometimes, we get caught up in the action and we don't turn on the mics when we probably should, and we don't recap things exactly the way we should. So this episode was recorded out in the field on a ghost hunting expedition. And, I'm just here to kind of fill things in. So I'll play this little noise whenever I'm popping in or out from current day Eric, which is late November Eric, as opposed to early November Eric, who was out recording this in the field with my friend Alex. And also, I just want to remind you that this week's episode is based on ghost stories that we heard in a previous episode. So if you want the full story on those, you can go back and listen to our Ghosts of America website episode. But I'll give you the short version here. These are ghost stories that take place, for the most part, in Sterling, Massachusetts. And that's a town that I'm pretty familiar with. Done some theater out there, have some family out there, but I was unfamiliar with these ghost stories until we found them on ghostofamerica.com. And I already did a whole episode about that website, so you can go back and listen to that. But in short, the stories were that there is a ghost behind Dunkin' Donuts that will stroke your hair, and that there is a black blob that will follow your car around on certain roads, and that there's one street that might be haunted because someone might have hanged themselves there at some point. And the biggest story of all was that there is a strange satanic cult lurking in Sterling. And if you find a certain spot on a country road and you follow a trail into the woods, you're basically on the nature trail to hell. So that is what Alex and I were getting up to. These were the claims that we were investigating in Sterling, Massachusetts, and later on in the episode we're going to take a little side trip somewhere else, which I'll tell you all about later. But for now, let's go ahead and join me and Alex on the road in Sterling, Mass. Welcome to Spooky Times with EricD, and I am your host, EricD. So that works out nicely. I am joined today. First of all, you need to know something, listeners, Spookaroos. We are on the road. This is a special remote investigation, and we are in the town of Sterling investigating some of the stories that I read recently on ghostofamerica.com with my nephew Tyler. But Tyler's not with me tonight. Instead, I have an old friend of mine from high school, and his name is Alex Macleod. Alex, say hi.
How we doing? Good to
doing
be
all
here,
right.
Eric.
Yeah.
Sterling.
Yeah. We're sitting outside Dunkin' Donuts. And why is that? Well, if you remember from the last episode, there's supposed to be a ghost back here that will stroke your hair.
Yeah.
Although, Alex, now that I think about it, I don't know if you and I were the right people for this particular section, since we are somewhat follically challenged.
Speak for yourself.
You've got hair, but it's not like long flowing locks or anything.
Well, it's gray, but...
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I have almost no hair, and you have very close cropped hair.
I'll let a ghost stroke my hair.
Yeah, I'd be down for it. But we are outside that very Dunkin' Donuts. But I think also worth noting is something that you noticed is the sign up here, Alex.
Oh, the Sterling Deli convenience store that also sells Chinese takeout.
Yeah. Chinese takeout, spirits, lottery, and it's the Sterling Deli and convenience. That is very interesting. That's a lot going on in one little business.
It sure is.
But I guess you can squeeze it in when you're in a town like Sterling. It's a small town. It seems to be coming up in the world, though. I don't think there were this many shops and stuff when I used to come out here, 20 years ago or so. So we are, we're going to make a pit stop here in this Dunkin' Donuts. And then we're going to walk a little bit of this rail trail they have behind here, which I assume is where Hannah from Sterling who submitted the story, I think it was her story, had her encounter with the ghost that stroked her hair. And we should point out also, it is nighttime now.
Yes.
It is full dark, no stars.
Which is always a good time to go walk the rail trail and approach people that are out there trying to get their exercise done.
They won't be concerned about us at all.
Right.
All right, so we're going to make our pit stop, and then I guess we'll bring you guys along to the rail trail, or we might report back after. But before we do any of that, let me remind you about the website, spookyas.com. That takes you to the show's blog page where you can listen to almost each and every episode. And you can also find links to our social media. Don't forget, we have a brand new Instagram account. It is Spooky Times with Eric D. At Spooky Times with Eric D. That's the one you want to follow. And if you're trying to send me messages on the old one, it's not going to work. You got to send them on the new one. I've gotten a couple old ones that I have to respond and say, hey, please message me on the new one. We got to follow over here now. And, of course, the Patreon, patreon.com/witchfinder. If you want to see the video version of the Halloween special, if you want to see those video cameos by our celebrity guests like Nell Campbell and Zach Galligan and James Jude Courtney from the current Halloween series, Michael Myers himself, if you want to see those videos, you can hear them for free on the podcast, but you can only see them on Patreon. And I also did a special day after Halloween thrifting event video that is also available only on Patreon. And there's some other, goody exclusive videos there and more to come in the future. So that's patreon.com/witchfinder. And what else? Facebook.com/spookytimes with Eric D. And you can join the Spookaroos there, our secret closed group. So please do all that stuff. And we'll be back in just a moment with some more spooky ass shit for you. But I mean that like literally, like not like the old name of the show, but like we're literally going to be talking about some spooky ass shit. Which I guess was the point of the old name of the show. So we'll be back. So what happened was we went back there and we discovered it's not a rail trail. There's just a road back there, and then there are some woods beyond those roads. But we decided we'd go around back and kind of scope things out and then decide to drive around a little bit after that. Okay, so we drove around back of this Dunkin' Donuts, and there's like a little park road out here. There is a forest back here, I guess. Because does this road go back to that way?
I think so. Left or right?
Let's go right, I guess. And go further up. There's a cemetery on one side. According to the map, we haven't actually seen a cemetery. We haven't seen anything, and certainly nobody is stroking either one of us. That's still true in your case, right?
It is.
Yeah. There's a nice little...
These are all businesses.
Nice little complex of some sort back here. Animal shelter.
All right.
It is kind of a dark and spooky road.
That's someone's driveway. I was going to say it was a dirt road.
Yeah. So far, nothing very exciting to report, but I got to be honest with you folks. This is basically how these things go. If you listen to the report that I did when I went to the cemetery, which I know is a very popular episode because, Alex, I don't know if you heard that one, but I ate too many peanuts. I think I have a peanut allergy, and I didn't realize it before then. And I got some trail mix to eat on the way, and it did not react well with me.
Who knew that there were peanuts in trail mix?
Well, I knew that, but I didn't know I was allergic, is my point. Oh. I still don't know for 100% sure, but I'm guessing, based on that reaction, that peanuts are fighting my system now. So if you want to take this left, we'll try this. I had a similar incident with some cashews recently. So I think I just got to be careful.
You may have a nut allergy.
Yeah. But anyway, I didn't realize it at the time. But by the time I got to the cemetery, which was like, I forget how far away, but at least an hour from home, there was a major issue going on, and I needed to find a bathroom fast. So that ended up being mostly what the episode was about, because there was not a ghost in sight. But here we are in Sterling, home of the Blob. That's a nice house. There's some really nice houses out here.
It is a nice house.
I wouldn't have expected. Home of the Black Blob that's supposed to follow your car, and some phantom hitchhikers. We read on the website about a little boy hitchhiker and also like a hippie girl that I think is supposed to be somehow involved with the occult that's out this way. And we're going to be going to that site later on. But right now, I believe we are in the wooded area where the ghosts stroke your hair and where you can hear a gruff man's voice. And we did hear a mysterious voice at one point, but it turned out just to be Alex's radio. And what came on? Spooky Times with EricD. But it happened to be the Godfather, a.k.a. Papa Shango, talking on the last episode. Because that's the kind of research Alex does. He listens to the show
right before
as he pulls into my driveway. Right. But that's all right, because I re-looked up all these stories as we're driving to them. So that's the kind of hard-boiled detective work you get from Spooky Times.
Well, I think we're driving away from whatever cemetery.
All right, well, I guess I was wrong about that then. No cemeteries to be seen. I did just see some ghost decorations. It is just a few days after Halloween as we record this. These are, in a way, I mean, there's a few too many houses on them, but these are what I would have described as a child as Bigfoot roads, which I've talked about several times on the show. But those are just dark and spooky roads that don't have a lot of lighting on them, and you can just kind of easily imagine. I imagined two things. I imagined that a Bigfoot might come out of the road at any point, and I also imagined like that you would notice behind the like those bushes right there, or maybe behind a large boulder or something, there would be like a killer. I usually kind of pictured like a Charles Manson type looking guy peeking out, ready to get you. All right, well, Hannah, so far we're not very impressed with your story. That's not true. We were very impressed with the story. That's why we came out here.
Well, who knows? Maybe all these houses that are new weren't here when...
That's true. We don't know how old that report is. And even if we did know how old the report was, who's to say when those events took place?
Here we go. Is that gunks down there?
That looks like somebody's house. We are on a dead-end road, circling around. This does appear to be a heavily wooded area, though. Still not feeling anything. I think I'm probably the worst person to bring on a ghost hunt, though. The way when we were talking earlier, though, so I think that you might believe slightly stronger than I do, because you've had some sort of experience.
Well, I think things happen that can't be explained.
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily if it's well, maybe. I don't know. I was gonna say I don't think it's ghosts, but who am I to say that there's no such thing as a ghost?
Well, my big question as far as that kind of thing goes is we have to define what a ghost is.
Pretty much my definition, I would imagine, is anything that's no longer living.
Right. But see, the problem is when you talk to like real ghost hunters or people that are really into the paranormal, like I can say, okay, it's the spirit of a dead person. Okay. But how does it manifest itself? What can it do? What can it not do? And you can't get a straight answer on that. And they don't want to give you a straight answer because they want to leave the door...
Snake oil salesman?
Yes. Some of them. I think there are people who are genuine and like really do believe that there is an afterlife and there are people that get trapped for one reason or another. The Bible references ghosts. Not, if you listen to the show, I don't really believe in the Bible, but it was the way I was raised. And the Bible says basically like ghosts aren't real, and if you're seeing a ghost, what you're really seeing is a demon. So even though I wasn't raised necessarily to believe in ghosts, like the idea of like something else, I mean, obviously if you're raised religious at all, then you have an idea that there's something else out there. But yeah, the idea that like, there were demons, there was a devil in the world that was like out to get you. I had all that stuff. But okay, I think we're done with that site.
Well, I'm still looking.
Oh wait, there's Colby Road, right? That's where she said it happened.
All right. Colby Road, which also
So we'll take this left and then the next left and just see what's up.
Cemetery's on the right.
And we can stop by there too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we know anybody in Oak Hill?
No. So it's this here, the street here, if you want to try it. All right. Now this is dark and spooky. We're driving up Leominster Road. I think that's what it was, right? No, Laurelwood. Laurelwood Road.
Which is the road we were just on, attached to the Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay, but it's the other end. So so when you asked me to go left or right, we should have gone left. Okay, once you get to the Dunkin' Donuts, it's not so spooky anymore. And now we're going to take this left onto Colby Road. How did we pass by it?
I don't think we did. I think we went down it. Or maybe we didn't.
No.
I thought this was a driveway. And I guess
Yeah,
it's a-
Jesus. It's a very steep road. All right, let's see.
Yeah, it's a road.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Not particularly spooky yet. What do you think, Alex? You seeing anything? Feeling anything?
Nope.
Nothing at all.
Nope.
And there is woods here, but it looks like there's a road kind of parallel to us, or at least a very long driveway. I can't quite tell in the dark. Although this does, I mean, you're illuminating a path right through the woods right now with your headlights.
Yeah, I think it's just someone's front yard.
Yeah. All right. All right, well, listen. We didn't get molested by any ghosts here on Colby Road. But we will continue. We're going to go to the occult site next. We're going to look for some peacock cages. Or some shit. So we'll see you then. So at this point, we had literally just been driving around these kind of back roads, residential neighborhoods. You know, a house every, 100 yards or so. And, it was a little spooky, but nothing too crazy. And then we meant to record more as we were actually up at Justice Hill Road, which is where the occult is supposed to meet. But we kind of forgot because there was a lot going on. There were police around. There were construction crews around. We were right across the street from houses. And we just said, you know what? Two guys sitting in a truck with the lights on trying to record stuff or going into the woods with equipment that's going to light up and everything. It's going to look a little funny, but we did do a little bit, and here we are talking about that. Okay, Alex, we detoured from our original plan.
A little.
We were going to rejoin everybody when we went up to, I don't even remember what the first thing we did was, but we went to all the sites in Sterling, and I guess we'll talk about that first.
Sure.
So we went up to Justice Hill Road, which is where the occult is supposed to meet. But we took a wrong turn, and we actually ended up going down Elliott Street, I believe it was, first.
Yes.
Where the black amoeba blob is supposed to start following you from the woods. So that was kind of a happy accident that we ended up on that road because it's right off Justice Hill Road. Excuse me. We didn't see any black amoebas.
No. None at all.
No, just some really nice houses, actually.
I was surprised. It was very nice houses in Sterling.
Yeah. It's, like I said, I think it's on the come up because I remember it being, like, very, farm towny. And there's some nice houses out there now, so I think good for you, Sterling. And it's a good time to get into that housing market in Sterling, I guess. But then we drove over to Justice Hill Road, and things did get a little bit more interesting over here.
Right.
This is where there's supposed to be peacock cages, they say. And if you go down and follow that, you'll get to a little burnt-out shack, and then that is where the satanic cult is supposed to meet and perform their ritual sacrifice. Now, some say that stopped in the 60s and 70s, and others say it continues to this day. Well, we got out there. The problem is that it's literally across the street from somebody's house.
Yeah, and it's very noticeable if you just pull over on this road and get out.
especially where we're in your truck and it's a very big truck. So people would notice.
Yes.
And it's not like it's a completely rural road either. Like it's pretty populated.
Right, and then it has sections where there's nobody on one side. The left side of the road, there was no one for about a mile, but there was scattered houses on the right.
Yeah, but my point is, like, cars go up and down the road. It's not like we were the only car on the road, you know.
No, absolutely. There was police and utility workers right up the street. So
Right. But we did get out and explore just a little bit. I took a little video, and the video is pretty cool because you can see, like, once we get away from the car and the lights from the car, it's pretty pitch black in those woods. So I give that an A+ for spookiness and a path leading off into the woods. That was pretty cool. Even by the light, I had the light on my camera phone, and it's still like I said on the video. It's only like a 20-second video, but once we get that far on the path, it just gets very dark. So, and there was like the little brick building, and we saw what I guess is supposed to be the peacock cage, with there's a brick building with a little fence around it, and then there's like a little shack that we saw that was pretty creepy. I took some pictures. There appears to be an orb in one of the pictures.
right.
You've seen it.
Yeah, the shack was pretty interesting because there was no roof on it. It was just a stone foundation.
Yeah, well, that's where the satanic rituals are supposed to have happened.
That close to the road, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. Because, I don't know, in the original story, it sounds like you're supposed to make it walk away. You're supposed to walk into the woods, but it's literally right there. And it matches the description, because that's exactly the description that Hannah gives in her Tales of Sterling.
Yeah, it was an odd building, and I don't know what it would have ever been used for. Maybe she said it was for peacocks.
Well, that's the cages across the way, but yeah. Because
Okay.
remember, a little further down the road, that's what the cage was. Well, they called peacock cages, but she just said birds, so I don't know. She says peacock cages, and then later on that it was housing for birds. So, but anyway, when we went out there, maybe not the best for an audio podcast,
Right.
but it did look spooky.
Oh yeah. I mean, you wouldn't want to walk down there alone at night.
No, and if we had a more discreet car and flashlights, which I don't know why we didn't think to bring proper flashlights. Again, as I said before in my graveyard visit, meaning myself really, but also Alex apparently, because he didn't come prepared either. Maybe not the best ghost hunters in the world. Probably doesn't help that I don't really believe in ghosts. Alex is agnostic, we'll put it that way, I guess, about ghosts.
Right. I mean, I'm not going to say whether they exist or not because I haven't experienced any of them, but
yeah, I mean, I suppose that's true on my end too. It's not that I'm fundamentally opposed to believing in ghosts, but again, it goes back to the question of like, what are ghosts? What do we mean by ghosts? And that kind of thing. So we also, was there anything else in Sterling that we went to?
that's basically
Not really.
it. There was supposed to be that other street we drove down by accident.
Hayward.
Yeah, supposedly, I think it was Hannah said something happened there too, but
Yeah, somebody killed themselves, but there was nothing to see.
no, that was a pretty nice neighborhood too.
Yeah, I mean, there are some spooky country roads out that way, but nothing too bad. And that trail was the best part of the whole thing. And
Definitely.
And one thing I do want to point out, as we're talking about this road, we didn't mention it when we were just talking here, but as we were getting back in the truck, we did see this rock, and on top of this rock was a little open bindle, and Alex identified it as having contained heroin. I don't know for sure. I'm not a drug guy, not those kind of drugs, and so I wasn't sure. But it definitely looked like some drug shit that somebody had tried to, either they were doing out there in the woods or they had tossed from their car, and it just happened to land on this rock. But that reminds me of something my older brother told me a long time ago when I used to live in the woods, to live by my own wiles and that kind of thing. He was very concerned for me because he is a counselor, a therapist, and he used to work with people with addiction and, a lot of bad habits and stuff like that. And he had said, when you're out in the woods and you're looking for these dark areas, just remember you're not the only person looking for dark areas, and not everybody out there will be as well intentioned as you are. And that is a good point, even whether you're talking about camping or whether you're talking about ghost investigating in abandoned buildings or deep into forest or something like that in these dark, secluded areas. Just keep that in mind. There are other people out there looking for dark areas, and they will not always be so well intentioned. So, not having had our fill of spooky ghost encounters, Alex said, "Hey, I have an idea. There's this place I know of that's pretty spooky in South Natick, Massachusetts, right near the border with Sherburne." So we decided we would drive down there and see what we could see. And here's the story of what happened. Then we said, this was fun and all, but we didn't really get our spooky quotient in. And that's when you came up with an idea.
Well, there's a street that I never like going down, and it's one of those roads where if you ever break down, there's no one around, and it's just I'd say it's 2 or 3 miles of just woods that encroach on the road and everything. So we went down there because there's a building. You couldn't find it during the night, but if you drive down it during the day, there's an old abandoned building that's all boarded up. We went to look for that, but
yeah, well, and again, this was somewhere that we didn't plan on visiting, so this time we have a little bit more of an excuse why we weren't prepared for it. We didn't plan on going there, but I'm going to do some research during the daylight,
right, because
and we'll figure out exactly where this is.
There was some story attached to that area, you thought.
Yeah, I Googled it, and a newspaper report from the Metro West Daily News, which is the local paper out here, came up, and it said that Harriet Beecher Stowe, of all people, wrote a ghost story about this area in South Natick, Massachusetts. And so I clicked on it to read more and see exactly what the story was, but when you click on it, it just says, "Oops, this page doesn't exist anymore." And that was all I could find about it. So it was kind of a dead end, but it is good to know that at least there might be some kind of story attached to it. I'm going to do more research because it did list the name of the story. I'm going to look up the story and if it has anything to do with that exact area or not. So I did do some further research into this, and I had a really hard time finding ghost stories set in Natick in general. However, I did find several websites that said there are lots of ghosts specifically in South Natick. So I wonder what that means. But this Harriet Beecher Stowe story. So it turns out that Harriet Beecher Stowe's family owned a house in Natick. And it actually wasn't her family. It was the Stowe family, so her husband's family. He was born and raised in Natick, Massachusetts. Then he went out to do some schooling in Ohio, if I remember the story correctly. And he met Harriet Beecher out that way. And they got married. And they did spend some time in Natick, but they didn't actually live in the house that is now called the Harriet Beecher Stowe house. But she did write several stories set in and around Natick, and one of these stories is a ghost story called "The Ghost in the Cap'n Brown House." Cap'n as CAP apostrophe N, so captain, but Cap'n, like Cap'n Crunch. And this story is a story where a woman believes that she sees the ghost of a pale woman in the middle of the night walking around the captain's house. I have not been able to read the whole story just yet. If I do, and it's very interesting, I will share it with you as it relates to the story that unfolds as Alex and I travel down this deep, dark road. But so far, that's all that I've been able to find on ghosts in South Natick. Also, I went down this street during the daylight twice, looking for this boarded up house or factory or whatever he thought it was that Alex was talking about, and I can't find it. So, I don't know. He says it's clearly visible from the road. He says it might be set back a little bit, but you can see it from the road. Well, I went up and down the road twice on different days and didn't see anything. So I'm not sure if he's thinking of the right street, or maybe it got demolished, or who knows what. The other thing to mention is that I went back at night by myself, hoping to get something a little bit more, auditorily, is that a word? Exciting for you folks. I went back to try to get some EVPs, but nothing came of it. There was nothing. It's just me talking to the night wind, and you hear some leaves rustle. But other than that, nothing exciting. Although I did do a little video driving out there. If you want to see video of the road, you'll be able to find it on Patreon. Of course, patreon.com/witchfinder. And you'll also, you can see it on Instagram, although it's a couple weeks old by now, maybe. But you can look forward to that kind of thing if you follow us at Spooky Times with Eric D on Instagram. So let's wrap up this show with Alex. When you start off on this road, it's pretty populated.
Right. There's
when
houses for the first
when you first enter.
couple 100 yards.
But once you get down it, there's like one house. The last house on the right is kind of run down looking.
Right. I don't think anybody's been there in years.
I was going to say, we weren't even sure if people were actually living there or not. But the house next to it, there are people. But the last house, no. And that's kind of like your clue. Like, okay, now you're entering this other zone. And then there's nothing around. There's no streetlights or nothing. So we're driving down, and we're looking out the windows to see if we can spot anything. It's on the town line between Natick and Dover, so I'm bringing up the Dover Demon, and Alex is like, yeah, I heard about that. And we're looking out the windows, and then you say...
There's lights in the middle of the woods.
Yeah. Alex is like, tell me you saw that. And I'm like, saw what, man? I didn't see nothing. And then he backs up, and there are lights in the middle of the woods. So for a moment, we question it, but I think we both kind of decided that it's probably a house on the other side of the woods.
I imagine.
It looked like, security lights or something like that.
Yeah, they weren't moving. They were there on the way back, too, so I'm assuming It probably was some sort of structure out there.
However, we were using your GPS on the car, and the GPS on the screen doesn't show any roads or any houses or anything.
Right. I think some of it's wildlife sanctuary out there, too, so there wouldn't be houses out there. But
yeah, I don't know. That's... This whole area, I think, warrants further investigation. So we'll look into that. But also, we got out at one point, and I went to take some pictures just to show that, like, this is a dark, spooky road, And I took one picture, and, like, dead center in the picture is a perfectly round yellow dot that was not visible.
Correct.
And I took this picture with my flash on my camera. So I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. And I showed Alex. I said, hey, this is really weird because it looks like I drew it on or something, or like I photoshopped it or something like that. It's a perfectly circular, very bright yellow dot in the middle of the photo. And I showed Alex. He's like, yeah, that is weird. But then I looked back up at the road and I said, I think, off in the distance, I can kind of see like a yellow reflector on a tree, like kind of around a bend. So maybe that's what it is. Let me put it exactly in the middle of the shot and take a picture again. So I took a second picture. And
right.
you do see it. It's not as clear as the first picture.
Right.
But that first dot is like right in the middle, very clear. So, that was kind of fun for a second to think that there might have been something spooky going on. But, probably just a tree reflector.
Wah, wah.
The lights in the woods, probably a house down yonder, or maybe some kind of light on a trail or something. But again, it all warrants further investigation.
Well,
so,
I'll go out again.
Yeah, definitely. But we got to go in the daytime and figure out where this building is. Can we also talk about your lady?
Sure.
Because I thought that was a very amusing part of the evening. So Alex, like I said, is a buddy from high school, and he is dating someone that we went to high school with as well. And this is Nicole. Hey, Nicole. And we called her on the way down there.
Because Nicole and I have driven down this road before, and the abandoned building she's always been curious to go into.
Yeah.
Right.
So you called her and you mentioned that we were thinking about going there and kind of jokingly said like, oh yeah, we're going to do a little breaking and entering. And her response was?
Do you want me to find you a hammer and meet you?
And I said, that's a good woman right there. That's what we all need in our lives. Just ready to go. And she was, like, not even a question in her mind. Like, oh yeah, all right.
She would have met us.
I'll meet you over there. Yeah. So that was cool. But yeah, so listen. Again, maybe not the best ghost hunters in the world. Maybe not the most exciting ghost hunt. But what do you want? Two douchebags that are like gonna go and be like, we believe in the paranormal. This is gonna be amazing. And then we get there and we think we see something and we scream like bitches and we run off. No. First of all, if we did see a ghost, I might scream. I don't know. I don't know what my reaction would be. I don't know.
Depends what said ghost was doing.
Yeah. But on the other hand, if I was someone who believed in ghosts and I expected to see ghosts and then I saw a ghost, I would like to think I would have the fortitude within myself to be like, oh yes, this is what I came to see, so now I'm going to investigate it further. Instead of being like, oh, this is what I came to see, I better get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Which seems to be their response on most shows.
Right. And that would have been great to run into something like that.
Oh, it would have been awesome.
Well, next time.
Yeah. We were calling out for blobs, literally calling out the window for blobs, demons, Dover demons, regular demons.
I would have taken anything at that point.
Yeah. We did see some ghosts.
True.
In someone's Halloween display. They had some of those phantasmic projector images. But those were the only ghosts we saw tonight, unfortunately. But who knows, Alex? You might get home tonight and feel a cold chill as you get into bed.
Yeah.
And realize you've been followed home by some kind of spookable.
Well.
And that's all he has to say about that.
Well, maybe.
All right, well, listen, the other thing is ghost hunting is still fun. And, it's fun to go out at night and go to a spooky forested road and drive up and down looking for ghosts. Like, we didn't find anything, but sometimes the journey is the point, right? And it gave me a good excuse to see Alex again, who I haven't seen in a long time, actually.
Yeah, it was good hanging out.
Yeah, we had a good hangout session all evening. So this was fun. This was a good time. So I recommend find your hometown haunts. Go there, see what you can see, bring a friend, someone you haven't seen in a long time, especially someone if you have like a shared history, like you grew up together, you grew up in the same town. It's fun. You can talk about all that bullshit and look for ghosts at the same time. So what's to lose, And then you can report back to me and let me know about your hometown haunts and all that stuff.
Well, we should definitely do this again, and maybe we'll bring a hammer this time.
Yeah. And we'll know where we're going.
Right.
And what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And maybe we shouldn't, talk too much about our breaking and entering activities on a podcast, especially before we commit them. But we'll just see. You never know. Life is funny. Takes you in many directions.
Play it by ear.
Yeah. All right, Alex. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to do a wrap-up at a later time. But anyway, thanks for doing this, man.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.
It's good to have friends that understand, like, yeah, we're going to go out. We probably won't see anything, but, we might. And, again, the joy is in the journey. Okay, Spookaroos, so there you have it, our episode. I am sorry for the drop in audio quality here, but all my recording equipment just stopped working. I'm going to get that fixed before next time. Don't worry about it. But right now I'm just recording with the onboard microphone on the computer. But listen, I'm just here to wrap things up, tell you to follow us on Instagram, at Spooky Times with EricD. And you can also, of course, join the Patreon where we have exclusive videos and soon-to-be episodes and all kinds of different goodies for you guys. That's patreon.com/witchfinder because, of course, Spooky Times with Eric D is a Witchfinder production, and you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/spookytimeswitheric.d, and you can join the Spookaroos there, and all all that good stuff that I've said earlier in the episode, so I do hope you'll join that. I hope you'll share the show with people who you think might be interested, and I would love it. It's been over a year now since I've had a review on Apple Podcast, so if you could go over there and leave a kindly worded review with a 5-star rating, I would truly, truly appreciate it. And until next time, don't be afraid.
Spooky Times is a Witchfinder production.